Like other people, I want to pay my respects to the traditional owners. There is an intimate connection between the racism inflicted on the first peoples and the racism that's inflicted on the most recent peoples. And I think it's one thing that we've learned out of the refugee campaign, that the whole Indigenous movement has been a fantastic support for the refugee movement. And I think there's one other thing that we learn out of the refugee movement, that the borders that they put all around the world are borders that are there to divide us, and that they're borders that fundamentally we don't recognise, because they are drawn on a line to divide us. And the reason that people are here today is because they want that little bit of paper. The little bit of paper makes a big difference for people, but what matters far more than that bit of paper is the kind of values that are represented in this square, in the square in Melbourne, and in demonstrations that are happening elsewhere that say, we don't accept the kind of values that the Australian government are trying to put in place are not values that have got anything to do with the Australian community and with the community that we represent. Other people, you don't need me to tell you about what the citizenship bill actually means. I mean, refugees in some ways are going to be even more dramatically affected, than people that are represented mostly in this square. The idea that you can come in, you get 510 hours of English, and you're going to be at level 6 is just absurd. It's lunatic. It's not. It doesn't happen. People that are going to come, be brought in here, from traumatised older refugees and things. That people they are going to be most dramatically affected. And the people, this government, it's not just a question of people on 457s and the people who come in temporary visas, and now they're trying to prolong or make it more difficult to get the citizenship. This government actually only gives refugees temporary protection visas, people who arrive by boat. Under temporary protection visas, they will never become citizens. They will never have the ability to get, family reunions. So when we gather here over the citizenship bill, we know that there are thousands upon thousands of more people who are affected by what the Australian government is doing to do in an immediate kind of way. And there is a community in Australia that's affected because of the kind of racism, the divisions that this government is trying to sow between us all. And we're not going to put up with that. There is a vindictiveness, a deep vindictiveness in the Turnbull government that comes out of Peter Dutton. There was a court case in December last year, and it was revealed in that court case there were 10,231 citizenship applications that had been made that the Australian government was sitting on. Eligible applications. 2 Afghan refugees who had been permanent residents for 4 years took that court case. The judge was, astounded, ordered Dutton to revisit, his rejection of those citizenship applications, but it leaves 10,229 people that the Australian government knows are eligible applications and still won't process those applications. That's the kind of government that we're dealing with. I know from talking to Estella and other people with a 457 visa, and I'm sure there are so many more examples in this square. People who made their applications months ago, August last year, May last year, who are waiting for the government to process. If they processed them on time, they wouldn't be affected by this bill in the way they are. So we do have to make it very, very clear that delay has to end. They need to process the applications that they're sitting on and deliberately denying extending the visas or sending their citizenship applications. The thing, as I just said before, we talk about the Australian values. I think there's a very big question about what those Australian values actually represent. The irony of this bill, this bill sums up everything which is wrong with the kind of values that the Australian government has tried to put in place. Do we want an inclusive society? Of course we want an inclusive society. But what do we get from the Australian government? Policy after policy which is about dividing and excluding people, and the people that are affected by the citizenship bill are only the latest cab, off the rank in that concern. What do the people on Manus Island and Nauru think about Australian values? What do you expect that they would think about Australian values? The kind of values which has separated families, of the people, the immigration people that stood with them on Christmas Island and said some part of the family could go to Australia and other would go to Manus, going to Nauru. the situation where we can have people who are still separated, brothers from sisters, partners from each other, wives and husbands, for fathers and mothers, from children. That's the kind of Australian value that this Australian government actually represents. It's a value which we do not share and which we will not put up with. And I would like to make a little appeal to Sam. I think it's great that Sam is here today. I think it's great that the Labor Party said they'll get rid of TPVs. I think it's great that the Labor Party said they'll fight the citizenship bill. I think it's great the Labor Party actually voted down or part of rejecting the lifetime ban. I would like to make this little bit of appeal. I would really like the Labor Party to consider their position on offshore processing until we can finally get rid of closed manor and Nauru. The government that talks about the citizenship bill, that talks about national security. They want to link everything that's to do with refugees or citizens to somehow to do with national security. The Justice Minister, Turnbull, says the same kind of thing. You want to oppose the citizenship bill, you're not serious about national security. The Justice Minister said the same thing about the citizenship bill, tried to draw some connection between citizenship and the right to citizenship to Man Monis and the Lint Cafe. There is no depths that they won't sink to. Again, everyone knows it's got absolutely nothing to do with that. It's got to do with this government trying to gain cheap political advantage by using racism, by using immigration to create those divisions between us. I think we need to ask ourselves again. They'd like to say, look through the Australian values. You look at those questions that they ask in that. Everyone knows they are insulting, they are offensive, they are Islamophobic. Those questions they need to ask, is why do we put up with a government that does these kinds of things to us? And I think that's the fundamental question that we need to ask about what is going on. They talk about the fair go. What do they learn from this government? What fair go is there to change the goalposts? You're a 457 visa who came here, made your application, stuck by the rules, put your application in the right kind of time. Yep, we want you to get a fair go. And to get a fair go, we're going to have to get rid of Dutton and Turnbull. They don't know what a fair go is. They think you can change the goalposts. You can change the goalposts, you can change the rules overnight, you can wreck lives, you can divide families, you can put whole careers and throw them away. Those kinds of things. Peter Dutton is someone who systematically lies. I mean, you can almost tell when Peter Dutton's lying because he opens his mouth. He talks about citizenship. He talks about, he said the people weren't shot at in Good Friday, in Manus Island. He systematically tells those kinds of untruths. What we learn about the kinds of values that they represent, they are hypocrites, they are vindictive, they are mean-minded, they're racist and divisive. And that's one of the reasons that I think we do need to come together to make sure that there is a community, and as far as we're concerned, people who are gathered, once you are here, you're part of an Australian community. If we had the chance, everybody here would have that little bit of paper that says you're a citizen. You share the values of the Australian community far more than Peter Dutton and Turnbull represents. So I think we need to make that very clear as we go about it. Migrants don't take jobs. Migrants are not about creating difficult circumstances with national security. They're not a national security risk. They're not perpetrators of domestic violence. They're not perpetrators of any of those kinds of things which the Australian value questions try to make it clear. So I think when we go away from here, we know we've got a campaign against the citizenship bill. We have got the beginnings of a movement here which is going to make it very, very clear to Turnbull and to Dutton. There is a campaign that's not going to go away. In September the bill is going to be defeated, and it's going to be defeated for the same reason that the government is going to be defeated. Because as they go down in the polls every time they try to play the race card, the refugee card, the immigration card. We're not going to allow them to play that. Those days are over. Those cards aren't going to work anymore. They've got no winning aces up their sleeves in that respect. So I think we're sending a very clear message from here. Stop the delays, end the racism, scrap the bill.